Hi, I'm Jessica Tang, president of AFT Massachusetts. Welcome to the Back to School 10-minute meeting. In this quick presentation, we're going to give an overview of some of the things that are happening at the state and federal level, an update on our AFT local sectors, and then also share some ideas about what we're doing to fight back and also keep our union strong. In case you missed it, we've had a lot of organizing over the summer and fall, including in places like Lawrence, North Attleboro, and Pittsfield, where they're organizing not just for new contracts, but also, for example, in Lawrence, to get out of receivership still. But the organizing is definitely paying off, and we've had recent contract wins in places like Billerica, Fall River, Greenfield, New Bedford, Norfolk, North Shore, and Peabody as well. Congratulations to all of these members for their wonderful contract wins. Unfortunately, there's been some bad news coming from the federal government. We've seen some unprecedented authoritarian tactics like deploying the military domestically. This is following what we've learned from Los Angeles and our siblings at the United Teachers of Los Angeles, but now also our labor unions in DC about the negative impacts of the National Guard troops being sent there despite violent crime being at a 30-year low. Again, it's an alarming display of executive overreach. And in addition, the president has threatened to call another emergency in DC if the mayor and local police don't cooperate with ICE. And there are now moves also to deploy the National Guard in Memphis as well. We also, over the summer, saw Boston sued over sanctuary city policies. There was a threat from the U.S. Attorney General that we would lose federal funding in Boston if they didn't revoke current laws limiting local law enforcement cooperation with ICE. I did join the mayor in Boston to show labor support as it continues to reaffirm its commitment to supporting immigrants, which include many of our members and, of course, the families that we serve, whether it's in our schools, higher education, or in our libraries or healthcare systems. Unfortunately, as a result, we are seeing a surge of increased ICE activity, and it's not just in Boston, it's in regions all across the state as well. We have also, though, been sharing Know Your Rights workshops for our locals, and will continue to do so, and can send those workshops to your local as well. But what's happening more specifically in our sectors? Well, we should also share that as AFT members in our libraries, we were also getting targeted for funding loss there as well. It's not just our schools and higher education. For example, the Mass Board of Library Commissioners was forced to drastically reduce database offerings to schools and public libraries and suspend key grant programs supporting citizenship resources, library accessibility, and even prison libraries. And so we are unsure about what the funding will look like in the future for mass public libraries, but we're going to continue to advocate for all of our libraries to continue to be funded despite the threats from the federal government continuing these cuts. In the public education world, we also know that the funding cuts and the effects of Title I being rescinded or the loss of grants is also impacting our schools and exacerbating a situation where funding was already an issue of many of our districts, where we're also seeking to override the 2.5 cap for additional funding for our schools as well. This is also being impacted by the ICE raids as we see increased absences and lower enrollment for many of our schools as a result of the federal immigration policies and uptick in ICE presence. Again, we do have resources on how to support our students and families and hope that you will reach out to use them. On the positive note, though, we're also continuing to show how important public education is not just to our communities and our future, but also to democracy itself. And so we are proud to be a part of the AFT's Public School Proud campaign. And in fact, Salem, Massachusetts was one of the first districts over the last few weeks that was highlighted as a place in which we are really contributing to our communities and making sure that we are public school proud. As national efforts to push for more vouchers intensifies, as well as more funding for charter schools, we have to continue to uplift what our public schools do well and why they're so important to our communities. In the higher education world, we have had some wins as well. So thanks to the AUP and Harvard lawsuit, there was actually a decision to release federal funding that had been holding up funding for medical research and so much more. And also would have curtailed free speech and academic integrity. While those lawsuits are still pending, these recent wins still do matter, and even in UCLA just had actually funding that was released as well due to lawsuits. But we are still looking at billions of dollars in research grants that have been frozen or will not be renewed or not be eligible in the future. And so we need to continue advocating for higher education. And we're doing that as part of the governor's new commission also to figure out solutions, including $400 million that would go towards higher education institutes, including also funding from the Fair Share Fund, which we advocated for. In terms of healthcare, we did see the what we call big ugly bill sign into law, and it's ugly because it includes nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid over the next 10 years. And the impacts of those cuts would result in devastating losses, including the possible closure of rural hospitals and funding losses to students and schools. Medicaid actually is the fourth largest bucket of funding for schools, and that could result in the loss of funding for school nurses, OT, PTE, IEP, and medical services. We anticipate that this summer's cuts to Medicaid will result in $1.7 billion of lost funding just in Massachusetts alone. So, this will force us to have cuts other places, and that's why we need to continue to fight back against the funding losses for our healthcare community as well. So, what can we do about it? First of all, we can continue to organize and build our organizing muscles. We also continue to stay educated about what our rights are and the ways that we can protect our communities and fight back. So we can bring a Know Your Rights workshop to your local, but we can also bring a MOVE workshop. MOVE stands for Mobilize, Organize, Vote, and Empower. And there's a variety of different types of MOVE workshops that we can bring to your local or that we can partner with local central labor councils to hold as well, or with community partners too. We are definitely stronger when we're working together. And so we're not just working within unions or a labor movement, but with community partners as well, such as at the Mass Fight Back table, which we've been helping to anchor. We can also, again, continue to turn out not just in the courts and in the community, but also in the streets. And so save the date of October 18th, which is going to be the next No Kings Day, and we'll be joining the ACLU in Massachusetts, Mass 5051, Indivisible Mass, and many, many more advocacy organizing and grassroots organizations. You can also save Luce in your phone. As a part of trying to keep our communities safe, we're also working with community partners like Luce to try to make sure that we are keeping our students and families safe from illegal detentions and activities that are detaining the family members of our students. So you can share the phone number 617-370-5023, save it in your phone as well. Helpful information to report includes the SALUTE acronym, which stands for the size of the cars and number of agents, activity, location, the unit, the time, and equipment. And we're working to continue to figure out how we provide mutual aid to the families that are impacted. Lastly, please do save the date of November 15th. That is going to be when we hold our AFT Mass Fall Conference. And you can join AFT Mass locals from across the state. And we're going to be meeting this year at Norfolk Aggie as we continue to build solidarity and build power together. While there are many challenges ahead, and we've already seen a lot of harm done to a lot of our locals and our community members and families, we also know that we are stronger together and that when we continue to organize, fight back, and speak up, that we can win. So thank you, and don't forget, courage is contagious. We will continue to show courage as AFT Mass and build solidarity because it makes us stronger.